It's good though. It's pretty like rough. Like I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's not the greatest wine. It's probably
Hmm.
like a cheaper version because I'm used to like some pretty bougie shit.
Uh-huh.
But it's fine. It's good enough for the show.
Oh, so the show is a subpar wine, is what you're saying.
It's good enough. Measly little show. Stupid fucking thing. I don't want to do it anyway.
Hey everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. You're listening to episode 37 for the week of August 18th, 2019. I'm your host, Drew, and I am joined by... I didn't even think of a nickname. Hi, Will.
What's up, man? I'm eating sour octopus or sour octopi. What's the right way of saying that?
I don't know.
I guess we could go with octopi.
Octopi, let's see here. Plural to the Googles. Plural
Hmm.
of octopus. Octopuses.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm dead serious.
So what is this octopi nonsense? Is that just people trying to be smart?
It is, apparently. All right, so according to Merriam-Webster, which is correct. Let's see here. I don't feel like reading this. This is like 100 million pages. How the hell are you, man?
Fuck you, Merriam. I'm honestly, man, let me just swallow this octopi here. Or I mean the octopuses. I'm well, man. Summer has been treating me well.
Yeah,
I actually have a tan for once on my arms.
I don't
And
believe
that's
that.
saying a lot because I'm white as a porcelain plate. So I have to kind of, take those wins when I can get them. But no, I'm well, man. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little beat. It's been a hectic weekend, but a lot of good things are going on right now. And yeah, man, all is well. All
Good.
is well. Yeah.
We're just not gaming.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of wasn't in a position to really, play any video games this weekend. Nikki and I got married over the weekend, so
Mm-hmm.
that was a nice weekend away at a local bed and breakfast. And the last thing I wanted to be doing was, sticking my face in a video game. So,
Well, here's the thing, Drew. It's about making time,
yes,
for these kind of things. And, you unfortunately you failed this weekend. You had a very unimportant event. And, it's the opposite of a once-in-a-lifetime event. So I think you probably could have squeezed in something.
yeah, I'll try to do better next time.
Yeah, if you had a Switch, you would have been A-okay.
I thought about that. And I had actually considered going Switch hunting before this weekend, and I decided that probably wasn't a good idea, and that would probably cause a divorce before it even happened. So, anyway.
Are you fucking kidding me, Drew?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I tried, but not hard enough.
Well, that's just what I was thinking that Nikki would say if she found out that, like, there was a Best Buy charge of, like, 300 something on the account. Are you fucking kidding me, Drew? Really?
She would just look at me like, do you have the money for this in your budget? And I'd be like, no.
Well, we're going to get to that later.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what's going on with the Switch acquisition
Yeah,
initiative.
definitely. Before we dive into our first topic of the night, let's just say thank you to everybody for listening to the show. Be sure to subscribe. Social media. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Oh man, I'm fucking tired. We're on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, all those places. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can find us. Spotify, we're on Spotify. Go hit that download button, subscribe to the show. Follow us on social media as well at WDGRPodcast. It's at WDGRPodcast. Will, how can they find you?
Will_gear.
And you can find me at Scion Storm. And we usually start out every episode with what we're playing, but I think we just kind of covered that already.
Yes, nothing.
Yeah,
But that's temporary.
yeah. I mean, I'm really looking forward to kind of getting everything back on a schedule and spending some time with games. I really want to get Spider-Man finished, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't blame you.
And especially because this is kind of lighting a slight fire under my ass, but our friend Saikoro has been streaming a lot of the games that I've really wanted to play over the past year, and he's already gone through God of War. He's already most of the way through, if not beaten, Nier Automata by now. And those are games that I bought sometime around Christmas last year, and they've just been sitting on my shelf untouched. And
yeah, Damien really is a shining star when it comes to completing games.
yeah, I mean, granted, he's doing it as part of his daily stream, but still, like, he is racking up some crazy completion rates right now, and it's making me a little jealous.
It is. I'm with you, man. I'm in the same boat.
Mm-hmm. What are you looking at playing next, though?
You know, it's that kind of leads into one of our topics, which we'll get into later, of course. But I've just, I'm going through one of those phases again where I want to play Sekiro like really bad, and I want to beat that boss, but like I don't want to put the work in to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm my mind, like when situations like that happen, my mind starts to wander into like what else can I like maybe venture into for now.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I would fall back to my usual go-to, which is Skyrim,
Mm-hmm.
or like Tetris Effect or something of that nature. But lately I've been, really looking at the Switch almost on the daily, and I'm thinking about how much I miss Octopath Traveler and how I want to start a fresh game.
Yeah.
And just get, into what I call, as and many people know by now, a nice cozy RPG, and that's certainly one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not that, then I was mentioning Assassin's Creed to somebody recently, and I forgot how much I miss the concept of those games, and I really owe it to myself to play AC Origins because I love Egypt, and that's been another one on the list as well. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But knowing me, I could end up loading up something brand new, or going back to something that I've played already just to kind of start over.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Looking forward to hearing what you pick up next.
Yeah, I am as well. I can't wait to share it with on the show.
We got some great questions in the mailbag. And folks, if you have any interest in sending in a question, just check out our show notes because we do have a Discord link in those notes. That brings you to a chat room where you can chat with cool people like us and people that are not quite as cool, like Joe Donuts.
Yeah, very uncool, man.
Yeah, so uncool. Anyway, just messing with you guys. Puxor asks, I love weird, artsy indie games like Polynomial, Undertale, and Proteus. What's the most avant-garde game you've played?
Yeah, it's I want to say Transistor. I've mentioned that many times before, but that game I would consider a little bit avant-garde. I mean, it's a very unique game. Fantastic game. I can't talk about it enough. And that's something that maybe I'll load back up again as well. I mean, I need to finish Bastion, which is another one. But yeah, I do like weird artsy indie games, man. Like I'm all about that. There was one that Joe played. I can't remember the name of it again now, but I think I might have mentioned that one on the show once before, and he said it wasn't very good because it was flawed with bugs and things like that. But yeah, anything that's weird and artsy and indie game, I'm all over it.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think of like the most avant-garde game, and that's like really tough for me because I really do like indie games, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head that just comes out and strikes me as like, I don't know. To me, something that's avant-garde is kind of like full of itself. You know, when I think of like avant-garde art, I think of like just stuff that's just very
Almost like snooty.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look up the definition of it, which I am now because I'm not the best at defining things. Like sometimes I know what something means, but I can't always define it. And basically here the short version. I don't know if this is Merriam again, but this is new and unusual or experimental ideas, especially in the arts or the people introducing them. The adjective is favoring or introducing experimental or unusual ideas. So, yeah, I mean, I still stick with what I said about Transistor, and I guess you could say Bastion as well. I mean, they're very unusual games that are extremely unique and very original.
Right.
Some of the aspects of them are similar to others, but those are two that stand out that I would consider avant-garde.
Do you think a game like Grease is a avant-garde game?
100%, actually. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that one up, and that's another game that I want to go back and play.
Yeah, that's something that I have still desire to play as well.
Yeah, you'll get to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely on the list. Joker Sparks 91 says, first of all, Joker, welcome to the chat. What are
Yes,
your
welcome.
guilty pleasure games, ones you would be embarrassed to tell people? Well, gee, I mean, if we're embarrassed to talk about them, why would we share them with you on the air?
This is true. Very true, Drew.
um, I was looking at my shelves trying to find something, and I gotta say, even though like I have some bullshit games that I bought at Goodwill for like $1 or $2, like there's really not a lot on my shelves that I'm embarrassed about. But I do think that I would be embarrassed to tell people that I have this strange fascination with idle clicker games on the mobile market.
Okay.
Are you
What do you mean
familiar?
by that exactly?
So it's like basically this false pretense that you're actually doing something, but all you're doing is essentially just increasing a calculator. The idea is, okay, you need to make X number of dollars to unlock the next tier of things, and the only way to make that happen faster is to invest more money into the existing tier. So one of the more popular ones is called like Adventure Capitalist, and literally the entire gameplay is just you tapping a screen, and you're just tapping these buttons as fast as you can, and ultimately you can unlock things that will tap them for you, so you no longer have to tap them. And the concept behind an ideal clicker or an idle clicker is that it also accrues money while you're not playing the game. So the game continues to play while you're essentially offline, so that when you go back to it, you can purchase more things in the game. And then there's usually some sort of prestige mechanic where you can kind of reset your progress, but at the with the bonus of getting like an exponential added to your numbers for the next go around. So it all breaks down to math, and the math part is the boring part. It's just I don't know, man. It's just this weird fucking genre. It's really not even a fucking game. I don't even know why people are into it.
I would say if Flappy Bird was still around, and I don't think it is, I think we all know what happened with that game.
Yeah, yeah.
And how popular it got. But if I was into that and I was, still playing it, or if it was still around, or if I played it while it was in its prime, I guess that would be a guilty pleasure because it's such a simplistic, almost idiotic, concept, but incredibly ingenious at the same time because it was such a clever game in where it captured your attention and like the slightest mistake and you failed. So there was this instant like, oh my God, no, I got to try again. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it this time. And I suppose that would be one. I know I mentioned to you before the show that I didn't really have a guilty pleasure game, but if I did have to think of one, it would either be that or it would be a game that I recall playing called Ragdoll Blaster. And I think it might still exist. It was just an iOS, game in the App Store. And I believe I was playing like a free version. And it was really stupid. You just launch like a ragdoll into like, I'm pretty sure objects, or like you have to try and avoid like certain things. It was really, very simplistic. And I don't know. I just don't know if there's really anything that I would be embarrassed to tell somebody I'm playing. Like, even if it was something like, I don't know, unless it was like Barbie's Dream House, like, that's something that you definitely want to think through before you communicate that you're playing that.
I think the most embarrassing game that I own is probably like Rumble Roses on the 360.
Rumble Roses?
Yeah, so it's it's like a wrestling / fighting game, kind of akin to Dead or Alive, but it becomes more about the cheesecake aspect of it. Like they're really going to stretches of making it basically softcore lesbian porn.
Wow.
And when I bought the game, I guess I wasn't really fully aware of that, and then I tried desperately to find like something redeeming about it, but really it's just a bad game with like scantily clad anime characters put in compromising positions.
It kind of reminds me of like Dead or Alive, like some of those bikini DLC packs and shit like that.
Well, I mean, they had beach volleyball too, which was basically, Dead or Alive Bikini Edition. But at least at the end of the day, like the Dead or Alive games actually were good games. Like the Dead or Alive fighting games have tremendous amounts of strategy to them. So yeah, you can get like, a toothpick bikini on one of your characters as a unlockable DLC, but the core of the game is still like a really well thought out, very balanced fighting game.
Sure.
So Joe Donut says, I went to Long Island Retro Expo this weekend, and while I had a lot of success picking some Xbox originals and Shadows of the Empire for N64, I reached my financial breaking point with Sega Saturn games. Titles that were $80 last year were $180 this year. Most of the games I'm still seeking out are now $200 to $300. Panzer Dragoon Saga, a game that I thankfully pre-ordered at $50 in 1998, is now $800. I know Will has some strong opinions about piracy. Do you guys have a breaking point? I've hit mine, and I'll be looking into quote-unquote alternative methods for acquiring the last few Saturn games I want. Well, let me go to my trusted price charting guide, pricecharting.com, and let's see what they're quoting for Panzer Dragoon. Because I have a feeling you're also dealing with some inflation for the convention circuit.
I would say so.
Let's see.
Somebody's got to get a cut somewhere, you know?
Yeah. So Panzer Dragoon Saga, if you're looking at it, yeah, it's pricey. Complete, they're saying it's about $690 right now. New is pushing $1,300. Loose, the game is going to go for about $370.
Wow.
So $800 at a convention is probably not unrealistic. And that's depressing.
It is. I mean, I remember some pretty high prices at Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah.
On just merchandise, the action figures, some of the games. And, I think it's, perhaps a convention cut, or it's the fact that they're at the convention and the venue itself, like the seller needs to get something. Mm-hmm. But there's always like some kind of markup because it's a big event. So I think, some of your best prices are going to be either online or when you go to a place like Regency Gaming, that kind of place.
Well, I mean, the problem that I'm running into now with purchasing games online is counterfeits have become significantly easier to make and significantly more convincing. And if you're spending multiples hundreds of dollars on a product and you're ordering it from somebody on eBay, you have no means of quality control and no way to get your money back if a counterfeit is sold to you. Mm-hmm. There are dozens and dozens of reports on just my local retro group of people getting screwed, making those same types of purchases.
That's unfortunate.
It is. And I remember, a couple years back, I ordered a copy of Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo, complete inbox, manual and everything. And for me, that was my white whale, for collecting. And I paid $125 for it and I got it on eBay. And I have yet to actually open it up and verify that it's not a fake. I suspect it's real because the manual and the game cartridge itself have a certain amount of wear and tear on them that just indicate something that was used but taken care of well. Mm-hmm. But until I actually open up that cartridge and look at it, I have no way of knowing for sure that it is real or fake. And I'm kind of afraid to open it up because I just don't want to know. But to kind of circle back to Joe's, question, what is the breaking point? I hit mine a very long time ago as a TurboGrafx collector.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really just depends on the price, right? I mean, for me, when I bought all that shit, I pretty much bought what I thought was affordable for me. Some of the stuff was definitely a little pricier than I expected, and I still bought it anyway. Mm-hmm. So I guess it just depends. If it's, if I found a copy, let's say I didn't have X-Men versus Street Fighter, right? And I wanted the original copy and I wanted a nice condition. If it was $800, it's going to be an absolute no. Mm-hmm. If it's something like maybe $100 or $150, I might be right. I might still want this. Because, that to me is not that much considering what it is. But yeah, anything that's any game that I think is beyond $100, I'm going to start getting I'm going to teeter on the edge of no.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of outrageous. Again, it depends, but anything above 100 is definitely pushing it.
So I'm looking up on the TurboGrafx, the older the game or the further into the system life cycle, the more rare the games get. And there's this one game called Magical Chase, which we've talked about on the air.
Yes.
And that was going for, complete, about $1,000 for a while. Mm-hmm. Right now, price charting is saying the average for a complete is $8,000 for one game.
It's outrageous.
And it's not even that great of a game. Like, it's all right, you know?
Yeah.
And then here's another game. This game I actually would be interested in buying for the same system. It's called Airzonk. And $189 for a complete one. And that's an average over a 12-month span. You know?
Well, that's just it. Is like when you said that, like, it's not even that great of a game when it comes to, what's the name of it again?
Magical Chase.
Yeah. I think it depends on the game as well. Like, it's
Yeah.
not so much just about, like, you know, is this a collector's item, but is the game actually good? And, you know, when it comes to X-Men versus Street Fighter, I think a lot of us know that game's outstanding. So, you know, if it's priced at like $100, which I think mine was, I was like, done.
Yeah,
You know,
I would
this
pay
is
that.
a no-brainer.
I would pay
complete in box, and, you know, you saw the condition of it. It was outstanding. You know, and like, there's reasons as to why that version is good, and we don't have to go into it because we have before. But, you know, when you have all of those things, like all of those checks on the checklist, it makes it a lot easier to spend that money. But yeah, in terms of what Joe's saying here with Panther, you know, $800, absolutely not. You know, if you're wealthy, if you're really, really wealthy, and like you have expendable finances, and you're just like, fuck it, it doesn't mean shit to me, then yeah, pay the $800.
Right. As a side note, I haven't really thought of you know, where we stand on piracy talk in the chat room, so that might be a conversation you and I have to have next.
Okay.
Just on the housekeeping side of things.
Sure.
Vortex says, I beat Inside last week. Fun game and definitely weird ending, but actually kind of makes sense. The real ending is much better and definitely open to interpretation. I believe each person will come to their own conclusion, and I love that. Still prefer Limbo over this. So going off of that, what kind of ending do you guys prefer? Something open that anyone can make their own interpretation and conclusions, or something solid and closed that the creator wanted it a certain way and that's it? And then he piggybacks off of that. If you could replay any one game with fresh eyes experience all over again, which would it be and why?
I would say for the first question, it's I got to say it's both. I've seen some games wrap up with like really solid conclusions that are very concise and sort of sensible, and that just kind of makes sense. And I've enjoyed that. I would say a lot of games that I've played usually have a little bit more interpretation there, or, you know, allowing for more open interpretation at the end, and I like that as well. If I had to choose one, I would say open interpretation I prefer, because I'm like that with movies as well. I want like enough closure where I can kind of understand, but I want some you know, non-closure situations where I can think about it, because I do enjoy creating my own interpretations of how something, you know, could or should end. So I'd say both to that. And then second question, fresh eyes. Man, a lot of games. Let me, why don't you answer the first question, Drew, and I'll think about that second one.
I mean, for me, I think it's kind of a little bit both too. It's not often that I like to try to come up with my own interpretation of a game or really anything. You know, like I just came out of school, you know, I went back to college for the past 2 years, and, you know, in our English class, we were analyzing poems, and we're trying to interpret what the author means when they say 2 sentences a certain way. And I'm like, you know, for me, my brain just sometimes doesn't work that way. Like, I'm an artistic person, but sometimes I have a hard time decoding what's inferred rather than what's just directly being said. And like, I've always been that way, whether it's song lyrics or poetry or whatever. Like, somebody else has to tell me what the song is about before it really clicks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I don't mind there being a little bit of a question, but I also don't want to play a game and not have. I don't want to spend hours on a game and then get no resolution.
Okay.
And I feel that with leaving endings open to interpretation, you're denying people resolution.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that for sure. I mean, there are definitely moments in games, and especially movies and even TV shows, where I get like almost upset that I don't really understand like what's going on, or I don't understand the ending, and then I have to I feel obligated to go online and like go on Reddit or just research like what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And like there are times where that's kind of fun, but there are other times where like, come on, man, like what the fuck was that? Like, can you just like, why did it have to fucking end that way? And, I can think of some stuff right now, but, game related wise, it's a little bit harder for me because I don't really beat games. And the ones that I've beaten, I definitely remember.
Yeah.
But, in terms of the second question, I thought about this, and I would say Asura's Wrath. And I know I often mention a lot of games multiple times, but there's good reason for that. And it's because they're my favorite games. And Asura's Wrath, when I experienced a small taste of that at Joe's house, it blew me the fuck away.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could experience that game with a clear mind, like, Men in Black, Erase My Mind kind of setup, that would be certainly one of them. I don't know if it would be the first choice, but if I could think of something right now, it would definitely be that.
I would say the Mass Effect trilogy would probably be the way for me to go.
Respectable.
And a big part of that is I kind of had this issue where I would begin playing each Mass Effect game, and then at some point during my playthrough, the game, my 360 would red ring. And this happened for all 3 games, so this was a recurring issue. But
That's a tragedy.
The system would, it was. The system would red ring. I'd have to send it out for repairs, and then by the time I got it back, I'd already fallen out of the loop of playing the game, and it would take me months to circle back to it and finally finish it. And it wasn't too terrible for Mass Effect 1 or 2, but by the time I circled back to Mass Effect 3, everybody had already beaten it, complained about how the ending sucked, and the new patch had already come in and patched the game with a more expanded ending addressing a lot of people's concerns. So I essentially had the ending of the Mass Effect trilogy ruined for me because my Xbox red ringed, and there was so much uproar about the quality of the ending that people just couldn't stay quiet about it. And I understand why everybody was so upset, but I would like to go back to that bad ending and all and experience it all over again so that I can go into it fresh and make my own opinion about the ending and not have it be tainted by thousands of other voices.
Sure. Yeah, man. It's unfortunate when you get exposed to a spoiler, like, unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And it can happen, because, like, some people are like, oh, it's your own fault, you didn't stay away from the internet. But sometimes you can go on the internet and not really be searching for it and still kind of, like, stumble across it.
Mm-hmm.
And you might glance at, like, a word or a phrase or a sentence, and you can't erase it.
It's all you need. It's all it
takes.
Yeah. My mom could tag me on something on Facebook. I'll go to check it out, and then all of a sudden, I read a spoiler for Walking Dead. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah. It's tough, man.
Yeah. So, thanks to everybody who sent in questions. Don't forget, you can send in your question. You can either email us at wdgrpodcast@gmail.com or swing on by our Discord room, leave a comment in the mailbag. That's the best place to reach us. And then, of course, you could kind of say hello to everybody and chat about all kinds of cool shit.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's take a look at this list of topics. Will, you have a packed show list for us for today, and I am like stumbling over my words because I'm fucking exhausted. So, what do you want to talk about first, bro?
Why don't we we'll dive into the first topic here. I had mentioned, are the 360 or the Xbox 360 and PS3 worth keeping in 2019, 2020 with all the remasters? If so, and why? And I had mentioned Ni no Kuni because the first one, because I just watched the video recently and I put it in the chit chat room that this game is getting a remaster. And it kind of made me think, how many games have been remastered and kind of put on the PS4 and just kind of re-released? And I had thought to myself, I know it's quite a lot. And then I started thinking, man, like, is this time for me to kind of question as to whether or not I need to keep my PS3 or not? So, I thought it was an interesting topic.
I mean, I think it is. On the Xbox side, I think the case is a little bit less solid for keeping the 360 as a system because there are so many games that are backwards compatible with the Xbox One. Now, it's not the complete library. I mean, there are games that are not compatible, but the majority of the games are. And I think if you go through the list and you kind of take a look at what games you own, and you can kind of make a better judgment call there. But that said, I think this past week has been a really great example of why it's becoming more and more important to keep your systems if you have games on them that you still like, regardless of whether or not you're playing them. Because last week, DuckTales Remastered was pulled from digital stores. And this is a game that, people were going crazy about. And now if you want to go buy it, you can't. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. If you have a digital copy of it, I believe you can still download it. But for me, I never bought it. Now I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently, I think either it just happened or it's about to happen. But Grid 2 is another game that is no longer going to be available for download through digital stores. So you have to have a physical copy of the game, or you have to have already purchased the game. And this was a licensing issue because that game is a racing game. It used a lot of had car royalties and it had music royalties in it, and those licenses expire. So these games, like a game like that, gets pulled. It's being delisted. You can no longer purchase that. And I think from a collector standpoint, I want to have access to every single game that I own. Now, I know that the chances of me playing every single game that I own are pretty slim. And so there's, definitely a bit of a, I don't want to say pack rat, because I do have everything kind of neatly displayed. It's not just thrown in a corner. But, I can understand from a minimalist point of view why you might not want to keep your games. But, you're going to be, remasters aside, I think by getting rid of older systems, you're limiting yourself to what you can play. And then if you decide later on down the line you want to play it again, there's a premium you have to pay to get it back.
Yeah, I think the key is, and I feel like I've kind of operated this way for a while, is when you have an older system like PS3 or 360, you want to be careful on what games you buy for those systems. Because if you go ahead and blindly buy Ni no Kuni, you might have a situation where obviously you find out that Ni no Kuni is being re-released on PS4. You're then having to, think, do I return this somehow? Or do I keep it and just go and buy it again for PS4? Because I think that's happened to quite a few of us, where you go ahead and you buy an older game thinking maybe, good reason why I have my PS3.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out that it's getting a remaster. And sometimes it's 3-4 months from when you buy it. So I would say the answer to this is keep your old systems, like you said, so you're not limiting yourself, and just do the research and just kind of think, do you think this game might get a remaster? And if you feel like it might, maybe hold off.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I don't know, take the chance and buy it and buy both, or, I don't know, try and sell your PS3 copy of whatever, and then you just go and use that profit to buy the remaster. It's tough because I think there are some people that might hear this and think, well, why do I need the remaster? This version's fine, and this is why I want it on this system. And I think people are not always about getting a remaster right away.
Mm-hmm. The other thing, too, I think to consider is sometimes the remasters aren't better. Just because a game is being remastered doesn't automatically mean it's going to be a better version of the original.
That's right. Yeah, they're not always better.
So you have to do your due diligence and look into it and research it, and just like any other game, look at the reviews. Is this good, or is it a pile of garbage? Freaking Shadow of the Colossus was remastered twice.
Yep.
And the PS3 version, if I recall correctly, was not all that great.
It wasn't. It was a weird tune-up on that one. Obviously the most latest one is very good by Bluepoint, because they just do a phenomenal job at their remasters. But I can think of another one, the Silent Hill remaster versions. Those were apparently terrible. I never played them, but they were flawed with all kinds of bugs and just weird, I don't remember the details, but I just know that was a huge letdown. And I was really looking forward to that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think ultimately keep your systems.
Yeah. That's the way I feel about it. But then again, you have to buy the furniture to support it, or the boxes just to hide them. So there you go.
That's right.
So Will, I mean, we kind of touched on your game cravings a little bit earlier, and you mentioned you're looking to pick up a good cozy RPG. What's going on in your brain?
Yeah. So I've been thinking about quite a few different games, and again, sometimes my mind starts wandering if I don't feel like doing something in a game that I'm currently playing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've been thinking about loading up Octopath Traveler on the Switch because to me, again, that is a kind of cozy RPG. It's definitely something that you want to play on the Switch
Mm-hmm.
and not docked to the TV. I mean, some people might, but I think that's more of a Switch panel game. And that's something that I think I want to start bringing to bed with me because that's how I was playing it when I first got the game. I would play sometimes in the morning, like waking up, still in bed, or I would bring it to bed with me, and I would specifically go to bed earlier so I could, play for like an hour or so.
Yeah.
And it's great. I love that game, and I've barely even scratched the surface, but it's definitely something that either I'm going to play on the side or I'm going to probably have to start over too, because I certainly don't remember what was going on at this point.
How much time did you spend with that game before you put it down?
I would say at least, let's see, I would say maybe like, I know it doesn't sound like much, but like maybe 5 to 10 hours.
Well, for an RPG, that's not insignificant.
No, I mean, it was enough to obviously get a really good solid taste for what this game is about. And it's hard to describe that game. I think it really kind of harkens back to a lot of old school RPGs. And I think that's why it was so successful and still is.
Mm-hmm.
And people were, found it refreshing to see one of those types of RPGs hit, a newer console or a newer handheld.
Right.
And the music is phenomenal. The characters are cool. And the concept itself of having multiple characters that you kind of play is something really kind of unique as well.
So is it like multiple like main characters or?
Yeah, from what I remember, you choose a character at the very beginning of like who you want to play as, and you follow that main storyline. But you're forced to meet up with other characters, and then you kind of take the role of that character as the story progresses, and you learn about their backstory, and it's really quite an interesting way of telling a story and experiencing what seems to be a relatively traditional RPG. You take FF7, and yes, you can take control of, a Barrett and Tifa and all that stuff, but you're not really playing them solo in an Octopath. Like, you literally will go into a different world or a different area with this other character, and you learn about their backstory, like, firsthand, playing as them. So, I think that's why a lot of people enjoyed it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's different. So, I think that one is probably going to be next. Again, as either kind of a side hustle or just something that I play exclusively. Who knows?
Very cool. That's a game I definitely want to pick up too.
Yeah, it's definitely what I would say like a Switch necessity. It's like a staple to that system.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly one of the main reasons I bought it.
Yeah.
I had mentioned Assassin's Creed Origins, Metal Gear Solid 4, and even Metal Gear Solid 5 I've been kind of craving as well.
But those games you've beaten. You've never beaten AC, but you've beaten Metal Gear 4 and 5.
That's right. Yeah, I think just sometimes like speaking about games will trigger memories and trigger these kind of spurts of desire for me to go back and play.
Yeah. It's really difficult because you want to stay on track with something like I'm laser focused on beating Spider-Man sooner or later, but then something else gets in the way. Something will come along.
You might like say, you know what, I'm playing Mission Impossible this week.
Right.
And that could happen. You might just be like, you know what, I'm fucking doing it. And you load it up and maybe it takes you a day, maybe it takes you a whole week to beat it. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like I've been wanting to try to come up with a system to just stay on target with one thing at a time, forget everything else. And I remember reading something on Reddit. Somebody had come up with a way where they basically assigned a game to each day of the week. And depending on that day, that was the game that they played. So, as an example for you, maybe it would be Octopath on Sundays, Metal Gear 4 on Mondays, Metal Gear 5 on Wednesdays or whatever. And if you say, okay, it's Monday, I'm going to sit down and play a video game. Well, you're playing Metal Gear 4, period, end of story. And then when the game is finally beat, then you could rotate in something else. But I feel like that's just, spreading yourself between 7 games is just too much.
It is too much. I love that concept, and I'm actually kind of, my interest is piqued to try something perhaps similar to that. But yeah, I think you're right. When you start mixing too many games, especially with heavy storylines, it can be overwhelming and sometimes I think just almost nonsensical.
Maybe you can do something where it's like, odd days of the month versus even days of the month.
Sure. Yeah, it's certainly something that I could explore.
It's a little bit more sustainable, I think.
Yeah. So what's going on with the Switch?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, it's been both. I have the money to get it at Best Buy, right?
Okay.
It's not a cash issue at this point. It's a time issue.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely didn't want to pick it up before the wedding. I wanted to wait until after the wedding. I figured this would give me an opportunity for the new ones to actually hit the shelves. But
okay.
The problem that I'm running into is like I don't have any means of checking inventory at a store. I have to buy it at Best Buy because I have $300 in coupons there. So it would just be like I've been saving it for this. It would make no sense for me to go elsewhere to buy it. And they don't have any kind of way of differentiating the original Switch versus the new revision on their website. So when I look on their website and they say, yes, we have the Nintendo Switch in stock, I don't know which one it is. And I just haven't had time to go to an actual store and look. The boxes are different. So it's definitely, as soon as I walk in the door, I'm going to know. I'm going to see them on the shelves. I'm going to see a red box and I'm going to see a white box. And if it's the red box, I'm buying it. If it's a white box, I'm leaving.
Okay, so you know the color already then.
Yeah, it's a distinct difference.
Okay.
So that part's easy. It's just a matter of, finding the time to swing by a Best Buy and actually get it.
Sure.
And actually, while we're talking here, I'm browsing around on Reddit, and I just read a post, not that this has any impact on me, but GameStop is actually giving, if you're buying the new Switch, they'll give you $225 a trade-in for the old one.
Ooh.
So that might be something you might be interested in if you don't mind, putting a little more cash into it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would do something like that just for a couple of reasons. I barely have touched this thing as well as the fact that I haven't experienced the Joy-Con drift issue.
Well, that has not been addressed. Like, regardless.
Oh, it hasn't.
Yeah, that's not anything that was fixed.
Oh, okay.
Or at least that we don't believe it has.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that I'm probably just going to stick with what I have because I'm just not. If I was like obsessed with the Switch and it was like my go-to, then maybe I'd be like, you know what, that's a really good deal. I'm going to trade this in. I'm going to get the new one, this and that. But yeah, I don't know. I want to break this thing out again. I'm kind of bitching for it.
I've actually been thinking about swinging by Best Buy after work tomorrow.
I think you should, because if you really do have that much in coupons, like this is a no-brainer.
Oh, wait, hold on. So 6 hours ago, somebody posted on Reddit that the revised ones are listed on Best Buy's website.
Okay.
So I guess they're finally carrying it.
Yeah, that might have taken them, I don't know, a week or something to get them fully stocked in or something.
Maybe. Let's see here. I'm looking at Best Buy's site now. Yeah, it's definitely the red box. I'm just trying to see if there's like a different SKU. Yeah, it's a different SKU.
Okay.
So I'll have to see what I can do.
I would go, man. I mean, you said you could go after work, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be getting in late, but I could do it.
Yeah, they close at 9.
Right.
I think 9:30 at some locations. So.
Yeah, I've been wanting it for a while. I've been a good boy. I've waited.
You have. You've waited a long time.
So what game should I buy if I do it?
I would say Octopath or Grease, and I know that sounds kind of biased because I have both games and I've played both and they're both really good, but I mean Grease I didn't play on the Switch itself. I had it docked, so I was playing on 27 inches.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that game is special, and I can only imagine how good it looks on the Switch.
Yeah.
And then Octopath is obviously exclusive to the Switch, so I mean, time is an issue for you as well, so I don't know if you would be factoring in, like, do I get something that's Switch exclusive and short?
Right.
Maybe that would be the right way to go. If that's the case, I don't know what game to suggest.
Well, Grease is pretty short, right?
It is pretty short. I mean, it's not exclusive, but as far as I know, it's still only PC. iOS is coming, and then Switch.
Yeah.
So I would say that that's relatively exclusive, but I wouldn't get anything like Skyrim,
No.
that doesn't make any sense unless you're, again, you just want a portable version of it.
Yeah, I mean, Skyrim, I wouldn't buy Skyrim anyway.
Right. Yeah, it's not a true game, really.
Not really, no. Yeah, I might have to take a look over there. I just actually, now that they have the updated SKU, I tried to see if they had any in the inventory, and it does not say that they do. But, maybe it's just still kind of filtering into the system, because it was literally just added today. I don't know. I gotta look into it.
So what do you think, what indie game do you think that we should play? I know we discussed this a couple times. What's next?
Huh. I don't know, man. That's a good question.
I don't know if you ever provided like a list for me. I know that I sent you a list of, I think, most of the indie games that I had or have. So I don't know if you need to cross-reference what I have to what you have.
I have to go and find that list. I never sent you one. No.
I don't think you did, and I think that's kind of where we fell off. So I could probably send another list, or we could just look at a game that maybe both of us have just not played, and we do a complete, fresh slate run-through of something.
That might be fun.
It could be, just going in blind.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily mind picking up a game, for the playthrough too. So, I mean, what indie games have you wanted to play that you never have?
Sure. I would say that one that came out recently, I know that we had mentioned it to each other on Twitter. I think it's called oh man, I don't even remember what it's called now. It's like, I want to say like Sea of Monsters or something. It's oh man, I just don't know. I'm pretty sure I tagged you in it on like Twitter a while back, and I was like, we need to keep an eye on this. So I would have to kind of delve back into my Twitter feed and try and see if I could find it. But it's a newer indie game, and it got pretty good reviews, and it looks really good. And I remember you being kind of excited about it as well.
Trying to see if I can find it. Was it like an E3 reveal?
I think I might be able to find it fairly quickly here, because I'm in my mentions on Twitter. So let's see. For Glimmer, I'm going to find the name of this.
Oh, your Astral Chain comes up pretty soon.
Yes, I have been quite excited for that.
I'm running through like the list of reveals at E3.
Yeah.
As we speak. This is really compelling podcast.
Yeah, I know. Especially right now. Yeah, dude. Oh man, it's bugging me because it's a newer indie game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna see if I can Google this real quick. And to see what else is on the topics here. Yeah, and then while we're doing this, I have decided, and I've already mentioned to Drew, that I'm gonna go to Spark VR, most likely without Drew. And as disappointing as that is for Drew, I just simply can't wait anymore.
I'm surprised you waited this long.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, you're right. I think just timing. Timing was a big thing for me, and I think I've got a little bit of time this week to get over there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing what you think of it because, I mean, for me, like VR is kind of like, maybe you could sell me on it.
Yeah, no, I'm like obsessed with it. So I think I found it.
Okay.
And it should be on this list. Sea of Solitude. This game, I think that we might need to consider as our next indie game.
When does it come out, though?
It came out It doesn't say.
July
Doesn't say
5th.
on. Okay.
Here. Get you a link for that. It's not a very good review for it, but I think it's let's see
Yeah.
here.
But I remember this is a trailer. I remember tagging you in this on Twitter a while back, and I said something along the lines of like, let's keep an eye on this because just animation wise and art style, it just looks very unique, and the premise seems kind of almost Grease-like in terms of like dealing with internal suffering and conflict and issues like that. So that's kind of intriguing, and it just looks like a really cool indie game.
Wonder if it's part of Game Pass.
That'd be nice for you. For me, it
Yeah.
won't be because I'll probably have to buy it, but it is what it is.
I'm just curious.
Gotta do it for the show. Plus, I just want to play it anyway.
Right. Hold on. What are we doing?
And mind you, I'm going to try and document my VR trip on the Instagram.
Okay.
So for all the folks listening, please keep an eye on the Instagram sometime this week because I'm probably going to do some stories. So keep an eye out for that.
I'm looking forward to seeing
this. You guys
this.
can get an idea of what my experience is going to be like there.
By the way, there's this game called Tacoma that I keep seeing.
That rings a bell.
And that looks very much like it would be like a VR heavy game too. Somebody here says it took about 4 hours to play. So that might be something worth playing too. I'm partial to it because I could get it on the Games Pass. But just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, this is an interesting description or synopsis of Sea of Solitude. This person says, Sea of Solitude reminds me of indie games like Inside or Limbo, but set on a three-dimensional plane. As a girl-turned-monster named Kay, you're just looking to find your own humanity once again as you explore the sunken remnants of what was once a great city. Perhaps a personal story of loss or depression, or maybe just a story about monsters. Sea of Solitude will most certainly tell a tale worth hearing. That sounds pretty good to me.
Well, let's talk about it offline. I think this might be worth checking out.
Yeah, it seems like a very interesting review that we could come up with here. Like, very intricate, unique review.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I gotta look into this a little bit more. So
yeah,
excellent. Well, listen, man, I am fucking beat. So I
think it's time to wrap things up.
Yeah, let's wrap the show up before we go any further because I still have to edit and post this for everybody. But thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you're subscribing everywhere you possibly can. Follow us on social media at WDGRPodcast. Will, how can they find you?
Will_gear.
You can find me at Storm. And thank you to everybody who sent in great questions for the mailbag. We hope you guys continue to do so. And swing on by the Discord room, say hello, and tell us what you think of the show, or chime in on great conversations about whether it's a hoagie or a sub.
This is true. Or a grinder.
Well, I think it's both grinder and sub, but never a hoagie.
Yeah, let me get the chicken parm grinder gyro hoagie sub.
Oh, man. On that note, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See ya.